Welcome to Juhl Media. My name's Ching Juhl. This is the live interview show that I started in March 2020 during the pandemic. We have seen 300 people so far, and they are very talented people in many different walks of life. They're filmmakers, artists, activists, and teachers, and entrepreneurs, and all kinds of people. So today, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and my what do you call UBI protest friend, Diane Pagen. Okay, hi Diane, how are you?
Hi, Ching. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, you look nice with
Oh,
the
thank you.
polka dots outfit. Yeah, so we are going to chat about many different things today, and I am in New York City. And where are you right now?
I'm in South Central Virginia.
Very nice. So tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know you've done many different things, and you're a social worker, and you are a pioneer, and you're an advocate for UBI. So tell us about yourselves, please.
Well, I've been anybody that has done work in UBI probably know you. So hello. uh, um, yeah. So I've done a lot. I would say if I had to give a short version. As a lot of people know, I'm a social worker. I've been a social worker for, gosh, it's going on quite a bit now, maybe 18 years, something like that. And I'm a New Yorker, born and raised. And I got interested in universal basic income around 2002 when I was in social work school. And my interest in it grew and grew until I became active in US Big and then in Basic Income NYC, and then with James Felton Keith, we put together the Basic Income March, and we got a lot of different people involved. And I don't want to. A lot of people already know a lot of this, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but a lot of really good stuff happened around 2019, and actually progressing toward 2019 for universal basic income. And I think that one of the best indications of how it grew around that time is that if I'm like taking myself back down memory lane a little bit, in 2019, 2018, 2019, and in part because of different political considerations and newsworthy things, our group Basic Income NYC actually, we made a decision that we basically didn't need to have our bi-monthly meetings anymore, because it turned into a hell of a lot of fun, but the people that were showing up already knew about universal basic income, and that was largely because of externalities, and is a testament to what happens when a few people get a lot of press talking about an issue. So that it was just a very good time. I almost kind of miss those days when no one knew what it was, and you were just the
I saw
part.
you. At the time, I don't know you. I saw you were there with lots of people, a group of people, and you were all very I don't, how do you say, like a core. You were very organized, and you look like you were a leader, and like a badass leader, And I was like, who is this person? But anyway, later
I
on,
said the same thing about you, by the way, when I first saw you. So
what? What'd you say?
I said the same thing about you when I first saw you. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a great, great March,
it
2019.
was amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and so now you went through a lot of things. We also met later on some other events like what do you call? Yeah, like we went to the New York City mayor's office, right? Try to raise the issue of poverty or homelessness, right? And that. So tell us about you are anti poverty and you have done a lot of work in that sector.
Well, so as a social worker, you obviously people become social workers because they see things that they don't like, and you don't like seeing people that don't have the money that they need, and you I would say you spend the first half of your education being told that poverty can be cured by something other than money, and you very quickly, if you're thinking with your head straight, you pretty quickly realize that uh, many of the programs that are intended to alleviate poverty don't actually distribute money, and if they do distribute money, they don't distribute enough, and or they make you do a lot of work to get the money, um, over and over again. And so I started to realize that in social work school, and that's what got me interested in universal basic income. I'm very interested in just uh, while I think uh, while I think services are very important, depending on what the service actually tangibly is. Um, I think that really the first thing that you need to do is make sure people have enough money to purchase services and products on the market. And then if they need something beyond that, then that's great. You can step in and help. But most of what we have in this country, in terms of services, uh, they're not very good quality. A lot of them, and they're very costly, and they become self perpetuating. So um, yeah, so you need to make sure people have money, and um, then you go from there, deciding what services are needed. It's just like the market, market products, market services, for example. If you have, I don't know, take any service at all. You're a videographer, you're a massage therapist, you're whatever you are, you're a chef. Um, if you're not good at it, or um, you don't deliver a good product, in the real world, your market, you will cease to exist you will cease to be able to make a living or to thrive in that profession, and your company will fail. And but that doesn't happen in social services. In fact, in social services, it tends to be that the more complex and least helpful services end up being funded over and over and over again. And you could do a deep dive into that if you had the time, but no one has to look further than San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York to see how much money is spent on services for people who don't have enough money, and the services rarely amount to a hill of beans in terms of helping them.
Speaking of services, I know, and you told me, and you like warned me. I'm not gonna vote for Harris. So now Donald Trump is going to be president again, and one of his policy is to deportate many millions of illegal immigrant. So I was just thinking, if all the immigrant illegal immigrant, they're all being deported, and isn't that is going to affect small business, because business people hiring these people, So what do you think?
You know, I think it's complex. I don't think if you're going to say there's a side, right? There are sides. There's many sides, by the way. Like a cube has more than two sides. And I think that you could certainly, of course, there's going to be an impact. I don't know that all of the impact. Well, first of all, let's just back up. So first of all, migration, legal or illegal, and in all its various forms, is a net reality, right? But it does seem that politically, what has happened, in my view, during the presidential campaign, was that it was oversimplified, especially by the Democrats, and frankly, I don't think that they were honest about it. I mean, the honest reality of illegal migration into the United States is that it wasn't completely well-meaning on the part of the administration that incentivized it. We have to understand, that most people who migrate. Now, I'm not getting into, some people are here that maybe they've committed crimes or something like that. Of course, that exists and it's terrible, right? I mean, we've seen many high-profile cases, let's just say, of people who came here and they committed crimes soon after arriving here. But I'm not talking about that, because that's something for the criminal justice system, right? But the reality of migration, and as somebody who I have spent some time in Central America now and in Mexico, is that most people who leave their countries love their countries, and they don't want to leave. They come here for economic reasons. And there's solutions to that don't involve embracing permanently every person that comes without documentation and offering them to be here and remain here, and straining every program that we have to the point that they didn't work before for people who are citizens, and now they work even worse. So, but like the idea which came from the Democrats during this campaign, that every single person who migrates here wants to be here and wants to live here and never wants to go back to where they live, is absurd. It's patently absurd. Most people come here to try to get ahead financially, send remesas, send money transfers home, and try to save money and do better so they can go home and have a better existence eventually, in 1 year, in 2 years, in 4 years, whatever. We had a program in the 40s called Los Braceros, where while it wasn't completely flawless, it at least provided healthcare to people who came here to work in agriculture from Latin America. It helped in some measure with housing, medical care, and like I said, imperfect, probably low wages, but we treated people better. They worked very, very hard, and then they went back to their own nations. This is something that we could do for the people who just want to get ahead economically, the people that I just described, who are the majority, at least coming from Latin America. I'm not speaking about other circumstances. But what I'm saying is, sure. So now we have a new president-elect, right? He has a vision of deportation, of, I don't know, we're going to see when he gets in, we're going to see what it's really made of. It's no longer a campaign slogan. It's probably going to be a lot more complicated than simply, not everyone is going to be given the same consideration. Not, it's going to, and we have to see what's going to happen. But, deportation sounds like very, very rough and hard for us as people, because we've been told for a couple of years now, the narrative has been that everybody that comes here wants to be here and wants to stay here. I think it's going to be, just to finish up the point, I think that what would be, there's a part of deportation that is very humane. We have a big child trafficking problem because the border was overwhelmed, and now we've got, I don't know how many thousands. I think the last count they were talking about was it's like 150,000 kids. They don't know where they are, that were processed at the border, and nobody knows who they're with. That's terrifying. Where are these children? Are they being trafficked? Are they being exploited? You know what I mean? So it's just, we have to be realistic, and we have to understand that, sure, deportation it's not entirely a net positive. There are some negatives, but it's only completely negative for the people that are involved if you naively believe that all of them want to be here. And it simply isn't true. And if you ask people who are here, many times they'll say that they have a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan to work, to save, to help their families, and to leave, because culturally they don't like it here. And I know people who I've spoken to many people. I have friends in Iowa who are here. I have friends in New York who are here, and their vision has always been to get some financial benefit and stability, maybe get their children a leg up, so that they can have a better life, just like we want, right? Just like we say we want for our children. And then they want to go back to the place they love. And so, it's complicated, and, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And if I may just say,
yeah.
Deportation or, a new immigration policy does not mean that we're never letting anybody in again. I mean, that's absurd too. That's alarmist, right? Of course, we, like every other country, we want to have a robust legal migration system. And then the only other thing I'll say is that the thing that no one has spoken about that I really hope becomes part and parcel of the next administration is, instead of spending whatever you're spending to kind of bring everybody in, and then just really, you're not providing them a better life, right? Instead of doing that, how about we help Mexico, Central America? How about we help them with development programs that create employment in their own countries, so that the people who don't want to be here can stay where they are? And if you take a deeper dive at social and economic policy in Mexico, for example, you will see that they're doing a lot to create jobs in Mexico, and it's making a difference. They are reducing migration in Mexico and Central America, but it's hard to. They can't do as much as they need to, because they're not getting enough help from the United States and from wealthier countries. And let's leave that there.
You are very worldly, traveled or lived. And you were born in New York City, and then tell us a little bit. You lived in Paris. You were at San Juan and some other places in Italy or something. Can you tell us a little bit about? And you speak fluently Spanish, right?
Yes, I speak Spanish fluently. I can
That's
speak.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It actually is. I absolutely love. I absolutely love the Spanish language. I love lots of languages, including English. And when I was much younger, I decided I was going to college in Brooklyn. We're talking pre-internet basically, and I just decided that the only class that I really liked was my Spanish class and my French class, and I really didn't know what to do about what I wanted to study. And I thought, I'm gonna just go somewhere where I can really learn Spanish very well. And I ended up going to Puerto Rico, and I spent 5 years in Puerto Rico, and I spent a year in Spain, and I got my Spanish up to a very, near native fluency level. And I've been using it in my life ever since. Really, I have a lot of friends from Puerto Rico. Ironically, a lot of them live in New York now, but yeah, I have a lot of friends in Puerto Rico, and I had a wonderful time. With a group of us went to Spain to work. We became very close. We still try to keep in touch, and Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I also went to Paris for a while when I got out of high school, because again, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I always liked reading and languages and that sort of thing. So yeah, I've done that, and yeah, it's just, it's something I think a lot of people like, just talking to new people and seeing things.
Okay, in this country, when they say bilingual, mostly they say English and Spanish. So I would say knowing Spanish so in such a good level, and creates opportunities, I guess, work and also personal connections, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've gotten so much out of uh, that experience. You know, no one really knew it at the time, but at the time, uh, when I learned Spanish and I came back to New York, of course, there were always a lot of Spanish speaking people in New York. I don't have the numbers, but it wasn't as many as there are now, or even 10 years ago. And, now in my profession, in social work, not that I'm a social worker right now, but in my profession, you can't get a job in a large city in the United States without being fluent in Spanish. You just simply can't do it. They won't hire you. And
Mm.
if they do hire you, if they do hire you, it's very rare now. The monolingual social worker is a bit of a dinosaur now, and and that's not good either, right? Because there are exceptional social workers who don't speak two languages, but this is something that has really it's really become a thing. So I'm glad that I did it when I did. It
If
made my
money,
career
if
good.
money, yeah, if money is not an issue, right? Which country you would like to live right now, or which city?
Yeah, I'm undecided, but I have to tell you, I love Mexico. I was just I was able to go there for a second time, and I'm very interested in their political. They have a lot of political commitment to elevating the lowest income people in their country, and they do it in a way that is very respectful of what UBI activists and believe, which is that you take care of people's basic income needs first, and you recognize that they just changed presidents. Actually, and they had a president. Their presidential term is 6 years, not 4. So, which is advantageous because that whoever wins the presidency has 2 additional years to do stuff. And he made a lot of structural changes to recoup money from the privileged policy, I guess, political people, and put it back in the treasury. And he had a mandate to serve that was, I mean, you can't even believe that there are presidents in the world that have a 60, 65, 68, 70% approval rating from the people that have elected them. I mean, it's almost unbelievable to think of. And during his time in office, he just left office, and now there's a new president that was part of, very much in line with what he believed also. His name is Lopez Obrador, and he just retired, and he's very, very loved for the things that he did. And the new president is Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, and she's, promised to continue his reforms. And, we need that kind of reform in the United States. It's very, very interesting. It's too long a conversation to have here, but he did a lot of direct transfer changes. He created a pension for older adults, direct transfer monthly, a pension for children with disabilities, a pension for single mothers, and it's all cash. And he's reduced poverty in that country, and he's done it without taking on any additional debt. And the way he did that was he reduced the president's income. I don't remember what percentage, but by a significant percentage. He said the president of Mexico does not need this much money, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
he cut it. And then he took back all the fancy SUVs and fancy cars from all the retired politicians. He said, you don't need this car anymore. You're not, we're not paying for this. Took them back, sold them, put all the money in the treasury. We talk in this country, and this isn't even a party on party lines or anything. We talk in this country, right, about helping poor people. And we talk in this country about, how we need to spend for the people who need the most. And, we just had all these terrible storms in North Carolina. Those people are reeling. They're, there are many, many people who are still homeless, and there's no end in sight. And we don't spend our money right. And why are we paying? We should not be paying at the most basic level. We should not be paying for perks for any politician. All our politicians and our retired politicians, it's not personal to them. They do very, very well. They have enough money. They have health insurance. They live in the best neighborhoods. We should not be paying for perks for any of these people, including retired presidents. We could easily cut everybody's pension and have more money, just like Mexico did. Why don't we do it?
That's a good question. Very good question.
Yeah.
Now, in case people do not know what is UBI, can you just summarize one sentence? What is UBI?
Universal basic income is a concept that direct money transfers that go to everyone, regardless of their personal situation or their work. The same amount of money, universal to all, is distributed on a consistent basis, agreed upon by a collective, whether it be every month, every year, but consistent, and with absolutely zero conditions. None.
Where does the money come from?
Well, I mean, it could come from, there's the, so
SUV.
I'm not, yeah,
Come from SUV.
so if you want to get really down in the weeds about financing, you probably need a different guest, but it comes from your priorities, right? We regularly distribute from our tax base. We distribute money to through Social Security to retirees. There's no reason we can't do that. We can't do a similar payment or distribution to every person in the country. There's no reason that we can't do that. It's a matter of setting it up. It's a matter of priorities. We have many things that we spend money on that are not life enhancing. We spend money on war. We spend money on bureaucracy, right? For a public assistance program, which is my particular area of let's just say passionate interest. And we spend all kinds of money. We spend about $6 billion a year in cash distributions through the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program, which is very means tested, right? So you have to prove that you need it, and then you have to prove it again 6 months later. We distribute a lot of, well, not a lot. We distribute about $6 billion a year through that program, but we make people suffer to get it. And we spend a lot more. We spend about, 10 times that $6 billion or so on all the other, kind of onerous service type, eligibility type things that come in that program. So, if we weren't making people prove their eligibility all the time, you could collapse the cost of that into a basic income. There's a lot that you could do. You could stop funding the unthinkable war in Ukraine that has already cost $200 billion and has gotten us absolutely nothing. And by the way, has gotten, Ukraine absolutely nothing. I think that the money is there. The money is there.
What about VAT, value added tax?
Again, I think that, a lot of countries that have better or more, or at least more direct transfers do a VAT. So, that's on the table. I don't think anything is off the table. Excuse me, but I'm never going to win a debate on how much it costs and that kind of stuff, because that's not my thing. My thing is, if you're going to spend, for example, let me give you an example. So all the categories of spending in temporary assistance for needy families, which is, other people call it welfare, right? In 2023, it was 16 billion, something like that, just federal. That doesn't count the state match. But let's just say all those programs, $16 billion, only 10% of that is a cash transfer. And it's not even 10%, because that 10% also includes whatever you had to spend to find people eligible for that cash grant. So I'm being really generous when I say that 10% of that 16 billion is cash. So like you can, if you spend 16 billion, but all you did was give it out as a direct transfer, everyone would be healthier. All the people that got it would be healthier, happier, not traumatized, not resentful. You wouldn't have to process all the paperwork. It would be an exceptional improvement over the system that we have now. So I would say, that's it would be pretty exciting to get rid of some of the like bureaucracy in that program. And that's not the only one. There's many others that we could get rid of more bureaucracy and save money. You save money and then you put that money toward your cash transfer.
Yeah, good point. Let's talk about situation since 2021. You are unlawfully being, how to say, fired with many other people in New York, and because and you disagree with the idea of everyone a mandate supposed to have vaccine, COVID vaccine. So tell us a little bit about that, and why were you thinking about that, or why are you thinking about that, and why the New York states or city let you guys go, and then what are these people and you result and doing?
Okay. Well, gosh, it's such a long thing, but I would say if I had to just give a very brief synopsis. Short version. The short version of being, of having my rights violated for 3 years, and and thousands of other New York City workers as well. In 2021, as New Yorkers know, the former mayor started to say that because of COVID, that all municipal employees would have to take a COVID shot, which at the time, just backing up, at the time there was, people need to understand, this is just fact, it's not my opinion. There was no safety data for this vaccine, none whatsoever. It was, no one disagrees that it was rushed through. Even people who love this thing or loved it said that it was, Operation Warp Speed, which, by the way, like, I'm still waiting for the apology from both sides of the aisle about, pushing that. It's, I see some people are coming around, and that's great, but it's a little late. So quite rapidly with, from August, basically from the August 2021, it, like, within 4 weeks of having people, test for COVID or take a vaccine, New York City suddenly decided that testing wasn't enough and that everybody had to take a vaccine. As a result, I said no to it. There's just, it would take too long to say all the reasons, but probably better not to get into it, because that's not what's relevant. What's relevant is that anybody who is watching, you may have made the same decision as I did. You may not have, and your job may not have been taken from you because of it. But imagine any other situation, right? Because we're talking about how basic income needs to be unconditional, right? Well, what would be the use of having a job where you make a living? You could even make a good living, right? But you have no freedom, and every time you walk into your job, like every year that goes by, they add some kind of arbitrary new requirement for you to do your job that has nothing to do with your actual job. So, 1 year it could be, oh, you must take this vaccine or we're going to take your job and we're not going to pay you and that, right? If they do it in 2021, and then you take it, you comply, as they say, then, what happens next year when they decide, oh, well, you have to, we've decided that having windows at your desk is bad for you. So, you can keep your job, but only if you let us move you to the basement. And then the next year they're like, oh, well, you can keep your job, but you need to participate in, some kind of political discussion once a week. And then the next year they do something else, and it's arbitrary and it has nothing to do with your job performance, but you're told that you have to do it or your retirement and your job, your whole social network, your whole professional identity is going to be taken from you. Well, that's what was done to me because I said, I don't want to take this shot. And I've got many good reasons. I've got actually 3 really good reasons for not taking it. But the reason that I'm not telling you what they are is because they don't matter. We have a constitution in this country. We have laws in this country. And you'll recall, not even 100 years ago, we had ghastly abuse of groups of people during World War II, and where people were forced to take all kinds of stuff because the people in power decided that they needed to find out, like, they needed a group of vulnerable people to terrorize to find out what would happen if they stuck you with this stuff, or what would I don't even want to get into it, but you would think that we would have learned our lesson. We have a constitution. The Constitution says that we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And obviously, the vaccine mandate, as it played out in New York City, people can do their research. It was never brought before a legislative body. None of my elected representatives ever got to vote on it and decide whether it was good or bad. There were no petitions. There was no legislative process. It was simply somebody who was in power saying, I think you should do this. And as it turns out, 3 years later, because it's been 3 years that they won't let, they won't fix this and they won't let workers go back to work. And people are still protesting, by the way. And, maybe Ching, maybe I can share some links with you at some point. You could.
Oh, should we play that? Should we play that video?
Yeah, we should play the video in a moment. But 3 years on, I am still not back to the job that I was doing, that I have 18 years of experience doing, that I'm bilingual. And you have, pay attention that just last week, the mayor was saying there are critical staff shortages in New York City. That there's children who don't speak English. They don't have anyone to help them. And yet he won't let us go back to work. And the reason that he won't let us go back to work is because this was always financial. It was never anything else. And he used the vaccine. The reason that they pushed a vaccine mandate was because it allowed them to basically mass fire people who are independent thinkers. And that's what they've done. And it actually turns out, as we'll see in the clip, it actually turns out that the health commissioner, the last health commissioner, the one that resigned under the cloud of the Adams investigation, mind you, he himself, the former health commissioner, has not been accused of any wrongdoing at this time, but he did leave before the end of his term, right? And he's now on record. I actually found the clip. He's on record saying in August 2022 that he didn't believe that that a mandate was medically necessary anymore. So if you want to play the clip, it's just a minute so people can hear it for themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Whoops. That's not it. I see. Okay. Try again.
But what's interesting is I'd love for people to think back to August 11th, 2022, when they were being told, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can. Hold on 1 second.
Over the last several months, in the spring wave as well as this summer, we've seen a real break for the first time in the epidemic, in the pandemic, between case transmission rate and severe illness. And so we have to take that into account, and we have to decide when is the right time to, on the basis of what data, to re-implement population-wide prevention strategies. It was right and appropriate in March and April of 2020 to introduce that guidance, whether it was mask mandates or population vaccine mandates. Those were all the right things to do in a time of emergency. I don't think we're in an emergency right now. We are maybe somewhere in between emergency and endemicity. I don't know where we are in that journey. I'm encouraged by the fact that in our city and in places all across the country, cases are falling. But the fact that severe illness, the fact that hospitalizations, and the fact that the impact overall on human health and society is lessening is a good thing. And it causes us to reassess where we are in terms of the data and when to pull out those policies like mask mandates that you're describing.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, Doctor, we are wrapping on time. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah.
So just so people understand, so he made those comments August 11th, 2022. And I sort of unearthed that video. It didn't get a lot of play at the time because he was talking about earlier, the main theme of that full video was some other thing other than COVID mandates. And so a lot of people missed it at the time. But the people who were in charge, you have to understand, August 11, 2022, there he is saying that his medical opinion was that we were no longer in an emergency and neither mask mandates nor vaccine mandates were necessary. So he kept, despite his expert medical opinion, he kept the mandate until February of 2023. And what that did was that made it that educators who had been forced onto unpaid leave we ended up missing, right? Because then we were right. He said that right before the new school year started, right? So had he been transparent and had he followed his own health expert opinion, we would have gone back to work. We could have had a path to go back to work in September 2022. The children would have had us back in the classrooms and in, the therapy office. And a lot of the damage that was done would not have occurred. So this person that you just heard needs to be held accountable. At a bare minimum, he needs to come before a body, an investigative body, and explain who or what circumstance made him choose to go against his own medical opinion in August 2022 and keep those mandates in place, harming people unnecessarily until February 2023. So I'm very passionate about it, obviously, because I am, when we talk, it's just part of the constellation of what I believe, right? I believe in I believe in universal basic income, and I believe in the unconditionality of income. If you get an income, but you're forced to do things that are against who you are, or that could harm you, or that could harm someone, or ask you to harm someone, that's not that it's not worth it, right? You don't want something like that. And I think that the universal basic income community needs to understand all you lose when when an entity that has power, such as this happened in New York City, when you have an entity that just, they basically dictate, which is what it was. They dictate a condition, and then anybody that stands up and invokes their right to not do it gets their life turned upside down. And that's exactly what happened to me. At this point, I've had, probably $250,000 in wages taken from me. I've had to do a lot of things. I've had to leave the neighborhood that I loved. I've had to stop frequenting and patronizing businesses that I previously spent my income in. And you have to understand that this is a lot bigger than me, because there's thousands of people like me. And this thing is not over. They're telling you that COVID is over, that the vaccine mandate is old news and stuff like that. It's not over. We're trying to get the city council to pass something called Resolution 5, which I would love if everyone would, go to their own city council member and go to the website and look it up. Resolution 5 would get everyone reinstated. There's a lot of falsehoods going around. The media is, as we all know, there's the media confidence in mainstream media is in the toilet, for a reason. And one of the things that the media did was, and continues to do, is they periodically publish stories saying that we've all gone back to work. None of that's true. It's quite frankly, what it is it amounts to a brain drain on New York City, because most of the people that said no to the COVID vaccine are tenured, very experienced people like myself. So, and people who were doing a lot in the community other than our paid jobs, right? So everybody knows that I, was doing a ton of work around universal basic income. When you remove somebody's livelihood like that, you're just basically hobbling their the totality of everything that they give to their community. So they didn't just harm me, they harmed every single poor person that I was helping with any situation. They harmed businesses who I could no longer, go spend money in. And then you multiply that by thousands and thousands of people. I would encourage people to look up an organization called Bravest for Choice. Bravest for Choice is firefighters who have not been allowed back to work. Teachers for Choice is teachers who have not been allowed back to work. And really just, do your own research, because the media is trying to tell you that everyone went back to work, or everyone has the possibility of going back to work, and none of it is true.
So what's going on? I believe there's a lawsuit going on, right? And how is that process going?
There's many lawsuits. There's more lawsuits than there are lies. There's like a lot of lawsuits. And actually people are winning in New York City. People are starting to win lawsuits. Again, you can go to Bravest for Choice or Teachers for Choice and get your own information that is not, sanitized, and omitted from the media. But many of the lawsuits are being won. And what's happening is the government of New York City, the city law department, has instructions to continue to appeal the losses. So every time somebody wins, they appeal it. And, laws like that, once you have an appeal, it stops the clock basically. And all of the people that won they have to just wait, and then they have to go to another court to be heard. And there's different ways that it works. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm learning about it. Really, I think that anybody that has children or is either mother, father, aunt, uncle, and you have kids in New York City going to school, or you simply want your public services to work, there's no question at all that the unpaid leaves and the subsequent terminations of city workers over this absurd and unconstitutional demand, we've been hobbled. Our workforce has been absolutely hobbled by this. And everyone, whether you care about the vaccine or not, whether you think that, it was great, or whether you think maybe it harmed you, but no one's listening to you, or it harmed somebody else, and, everybody pretends that it was something else. It doesn't matter what you think about the vaccine. What matters is the encroachment on everything that we believe, that you cannot just be stopped in the street and have a condition put on you by some people who, by the way, happen to have made a lot of money off of this condition. So, where does it stop? It's like, I don't know if people recall the Bolsa Familia in Brazil was one of the more recent, I guess actually one of the older attempts at a basic income, and pretty positive for people who were very, very poor in Brazil. And then they started to add conditions to it. And, you could argue, some of the conditions helped people, right? Because some of the conditions were like, oh, if you take your kid to the dentist, we'll make sure you get your Bolsa Familia payment. And, who could argue with that? That's wonderful, right? But the problem with conditions is that the conditions are decided by an entity that's not you, and it's not democratic. And so how do you know which condition? How do you know who's benefiting from imposing this condition? I didn't benefit. You didn't benefit, but somebody benefited, and it was, and a lot of harm was done to people in order to secure the benefit, the unspoken benefit of this vaccine mandate, which was to force consumption of a product that was very expensive. You didn't pay for the shot that you got, but it was, distributed over the tax base, right? And someone paid for it, and it wasn't the pharmaceuticals. So, we have to just think with our heads. If we want a universal basic income to be a pure one, we cannot put conditions on it. A good parent's going to take their kids to the dentist. A good parent, who are most parents, right? Most people are great, and, at least I believe that. And they're going to take their kids to the dentist. They're going to make sure their kids go to school. You don't need to have it as a condition of employment or a condition of a transfer. We cannot do this to people.
Yeah, I agree. I support UBI, and yeah. So we are almost ending time, and now I just want to make announcement. I know we have people listening, and at home or in their workspace. And so this is Ching Juhl and Juhl Media. And check our live interview. This we've I have chat with more than 300 people. At beginning, Diane, I was chatting groups of young gang, because at the time, Andrew Yang just suspended his campaign in 2020. Anyway, and check my film, my Young Gun Diary, so you get to see the people who supported Andrew Yang, and the link is underneath. Now, so I'm gonna do a game with Diane. It's called Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is like I ask a short question, and my guest will answer shortly, not 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 too
Not
sentences.
longly, just shortly.
Very short. Okay. All right. So, are you ready? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I'm ready.
yeah, it's all very trivial, funny question. All right. What's your favorite restaurant and food you go when someone says let's go eat?
Bar Primi on Bowery in New York City when I'm there.
What kind of food?
Italian.
Oh, cool. And what is your favorite color?
Blue.
What do you indulge yourself when you feel like you're being bad, meaning eating junk food?
Chocolate.
That's not junk. That's nice, healthy.
I don't really have it. I'm being frank. I don't really have a really bad junk food.
Good for you.
Chocolate's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I review what do I like to eat? I like McDonald's.
Yeah, well,
I'm not endorse them, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once in a while doesn't hurt anything,
Yeah. Okay. I already asked you which city you want. Which city would you like to live if there's no money issue? And you say Mexico. Mexico where?
Undecided, but Mexico City is a big possibility. Also, maybe San Salvador. I really liked San Salvador when I went. Mm.
Do you have a favorite TV series?
Oh, I really loved. Right now I'm watching The Chosen, which is really getting very, very good.
Really? What is it about?
The Chosen. It's all about the life of Jesus. The rise and emergence of life, teachings, and fall.
Oh yeah. Okay. You're a history person.
Yeah, and but it's wonderful. I mean, you don't have to be a Christian to find it fascinating. It's very fascinating and really good stories. I really, really like some of the Scandinavian crime stuff. Like, I really recommend the Swedish TV series, The Bridge. It's old now, but it's wonderful. And I absolutely love Baron Noir. Baron Noir is a French political thriller that is now, I think they're working on a season 4, I believe, and it's just wonderful. Baron Noir, look it up.
It's on where? That's right.
Well, that's a problem. You're gonna have to do your investigation because it was on Prime, but I think the licensing agreement may have run out. But you can find it.
Oh, okay.
Baron Noir. It's wonderful.
I don't know how to spell. Can you spell in your chat, in your private chat, and I bring it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody should watch Baron Noir. It's really? Actually, it's all political intrigue. If you could let people know, it's all political intrigue.
Yeah.
And it helps you understand the French political system, which is really, really, really way more interesting than ours because they have more parties and it's just very different.
So what does that mean, this title? Is this somebody's name?
No, it means Black Baron.
What's Black Baron?
Black Baron. Well, a baron is I don't know. Somebody help me out. I don't know. It's a baron it's a title. It's like a royalty title, but here it just means like a person who kind of has a lot of power.
Okay.
And yeah, and that's the main character, is played by Kad Morad. He's a French actor and he's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Great. You won't regret it.
Cool. Well, I often ask my guests, if you like to have 3 dinners separate with a person, who would you like to take this person, or ask them to take you? Either way, like, who would you like to have dinner with?
God, there's a
Except
lot
me.
of people.
Except me.
I don't. Can you narrow the category to?
Oh no. Or how about live or dead?
That makes the category larger, you know.
No, that makes actually bigger. Yeah, it's easy to pick, right?
Yeah, my father, he died in
Okay.
1986. I would like to have dinner with him.
Mm-hmm.
A long dinner. You need a
Nice.
few hours
Nice.
to catch up. I
Yeah.
miss him.
2 more.
Robert Kennedy Jr. Not at McDonald's, somewhere else. He's gonna make us all healthy. I have faith. I think that's a positive. And a third one, maybe someone from maybe a writer. You know, there are a lot of writers that
Hemingway.
I
Hemingway
think,
is a nut, right? He's a nut.
well, he you know, he was a troubled man, troubled and talented, as that they tend to go together somehow. I would say Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. I'd like to talk to him.
I don't know. I don't know this person.
He was a British novelist. The book is amazing. Everyone should read it. Really great. That's 3. That's 3. Yeah.
Nice.
So I have 2 people who are not alive and 1 who is.
So what do you like about oh, sorry, it's supposed to be a rapid fire. Oh, no. I was going to ask you, what do you like about Robert Kennedy Jr.?
Yeah, so Robert Kennedy Jr., you know, again, you have to go back. I would really say that people should go back and look at his career. You know, 10 years ago, when he was you know, doing a lot of environmental work, you know, and having great success, he was not called any derogatory names. And then, you know, once he decided to get into the political arena, kind of all the claws came out. And I would say that, you know, if anything, I like to consult different sources for my information. And Robert Kennedy Jr. Is, I first noticed him in 2021 when we were all forced onto unpaid leave over this shot. And the only, you know, it was a very isolating experience, and virtually no politician from any area of belief came to our aid, except for one, and it was Robert Kennedy. He showed up at several rallies, you know, to draw attention to what was happening to the workers of New York City with this vaccine mandate. And he's also very, so I'd say that, you know, that's number one. Number 2 is he's very consistent in his beliefs. You know, you cannot agree with someone, but you got to admire when they're consistent in their beliefs. And he's been consistent, all along that that this should not be something like medical procedures and medical things should not be they should not be compulsory, especially not in an emergency. There's too many there's too much risk of there being an ulterior motive, usually financial. And he's the one that's been saying this. And of course, the years have only proved him correct, because we now know, according to, Rochelle Walensky herself and Dr. Deborah Birx herself and a host of other people, that at the time that they mandated this, they had data that was troubling about the health consequences, and they covered it up because they didn't want to discourage people from getting it. And look where we're at now. He's just basically saying people should go into things with their eyes wide open, and that the manufacturers of these medical products should not have. They should be liable if someone is injured or something happens. He's not saying that nobody should ever take a vaccine. He's never said that. I would challenge anybody who's listening to go and listen to him, not listen to the people talking about what he thinks, just listen to him firsthand. He said they should be subject to strict, non-rushed, peer-reviewed, legitimate studies that have placebos, to test. They should not be rushed through, and there should be no mandates. And if someone gets hurt, there should be a fund, and the manufacturer has to be held liable. I don't know in what universe that sounds extremist or fascist or weird. That sounds like, if you went to a restaurant and, the food made you sick, would you say that the restaurant should not be held liable? Mm-hmm. We don't say that for any other product. Why have we been convinced through lobbying and other things that vaccine manufacturers should not have to pay if somebody gets hurt? So, he's been very consistent, and I admire consistency because, frankly, there are so few consistent people, in the world. And, I'm hoping we're going to get back to just, being truthful, whatever we think. And from there, you can sit down with the person you disagree with the most, and you can have a conversation, and maybe we can do something to make this country better. But you can't do it if everyone's lying, and saying that, you have to do something for one reason when the reason all along was something completely different. So, I admire that. And I don't like.
I'm going to see, he has a position, right? Cabinet position from Donald Trump.
Yeah, he has a position, and let me tell you, to me, the one of the reasons that I know that he is a good person to lead is because he is able, he knows that he is not Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is not him, right? But he doesn't have there's no virtue signaling with Robert Kennedy going on. He either, he's like, sure, I don't agree with this guy on some stuff, but you know what? We have to make something better. And me, sitting at home virtue signaling that, that he's too bad a person for me to deal with. Where is that going to get us? No place.
Well said.
An overwhelming number of people rejected the Democratic candidate, and it shouldn't be any surprise. I mean, that the writing was on the wall. I still, it would take a whole nother, sit down, to kind of share about about that, but the writing was on the wall, and you can't blame the people for that loss. That loss lays squarely on the shoulders of the machine that chose the candidate, and that's it. They have to take responsibility and understand that if you put somebody, if you do it the way you did it, and the person that you chose, you kind of forced on people, knowing that candidate had no possibility of winning legitimately. She got less. Remember 2020? She got, I don't know, 3% in the primary, something like that. I mean, I don't even know. I don't quite remember. You would have to tell me, but I think Andrew did better than her, or maybe, like, you know what I mean? Like, she had no, like, Andrew was a very would have been a to me, to my mind, I'm not entirely objective, but Andrew would have been to me, a good choice, right?
Andrew,
But
yeah.
yes, but they forced it in 2020 with, parading out a candidate that we didn't really want, and they for the nomination, and then you had the same thing in 2016, and now in 2024 you have the same thing over again. Stop treating people like, listen to your people. If your people are telling you that in a primary that they don't want, that they don't want, Kamala Harris to be picked in 2020 before she's even had a chance to do anything wrong, how is she gonna have any kind of support in 2024? It was never going to happen, and it was a fairy tale from the start. And there's all kinds of theories about why, but I think that, like, even if it was well-meaning, which I don't believe it was, but even, giving the benefit of the doubt that they were just so off base in their approach that the Democrats chose her, that's not the people's fault. Like, all this, like, oh, you have to vote for the lesser of this or that, or like, oh, you can't abandon your party. No, like, your party has abandoned, all the things that people used to say you stood for, like the workers. I didn't get terminated by a Republican mayor.
You were a Democrat, right? Or you are still? Wait.
Well, I've always, to be fair, I've always, I think since I've been an independent since 2000.
Okay.
But obviously, you have to make a choice in the general, and you don't always vote for the independent, right? But I was a Nader voter way back in 2000. He's an amazing man. He's an amazing man. They don't make them like that anymore, except maybe Kennedy. I'm not down in the dumps about this election. I think that at least we have something to work with. I mean, if I had been, well, there was no other outcome.
So what do you like about Donald Trump? Because I am about to move to Portugal.
Well, if you move to Portugal, you shouldn't do it because of this election. I mean, your life was not, you got to think about it. Like, just be objective. Any problem that you had last year or the year before, you had supposedly, the right president. So, like, it's any problem that you've had that is related to the federal government or anything like that, you had it under the current administration, right? So,
I'm just having a hard time with like his, like morality and
Mhm.
his, I don't know, his just showing ship. I mean, I wouldn't want my daughter to marry him,
She doesn't have to,
right?
right? And neither do you. I mean, you just want, look, I'm gonna tell you what I find optimistic about this is that,
Yeah, please.
yeah, this is purely policy. I don't have to break bread with anybody, And by the way, like, I do think, though, I would invite you. I have several links I can send you of Donald Trump not being a jerk, like, over the years, that I will happily send you. The media, you know, has spun him somewhat to try to gain favor. I mean, that's what they do, right? To try to make him not someone's choice, right? That's what the media does. They do it for other things too. But here's my thing. Number one, the only had the Democrats won, every vaccine mandate case would have probably very little possibility of winning appeals, because they are very like roped into this whole like pro pharma, limit no liability for pharma kind of stuff, right? Because they're all invested in it. That's number one. Number two, I don't want to pay taxes to kill people. This is very, very simple at its most simple level. We have been in Ukraine, and people say, oh, we're not in Ukraine. We are absolutely in Ukraine. If it's in Ukraine, we are in Ukraine. Okay? And if you look at what's going on in Ukraine, we've spent a hell of a lot of money. It's $208 billion now since the beginning. And I think it's only been 18 months. We are spending money we don't have to an end that we don't even know what the end is. We consider that 600,000 people have died in Ukraine since the beginning of this war. 300,000 Russians have died since the beginning of this war. That's almost 1 million people. That's really, really horrible. And we've helped make it happen. And we have people here that don't have what to eat, including, in 2021, 2022, I was one of them, quite literally. And we're spending, this administration has said over and over that basically they have a blank check for Ukraine. Whatever that man wants, that man gets, until there is not even a person standing. You'll notice that the media never talks about the fatalities in Ukraine, because they don't want to, because if they do, we might start to think that it's a terrible thing and we might start to revolt. And I believe that the Ukraine war weighed heavily in the election, because I don't want to pay for that. I don't think any well-meaning person wants to pay to, reduce a place to rubble. And so that's the other thing, because Donald Trump has said that on day one, or, month one, or whatever, his overwhelming priority is going to be to negotiate an end to that. And I think that is worth everything, because I don't want to be responsible for that. Similarly, I think that we definitely need to start figuring out how to prioritize our own needs, our infrastructure, disaster relief. North Carolina affected people a lot. North Carolina, Florida, the devastation there is horrid. Also not being covered much in the media. People, it's getting colder. People don't have where to live. People are living in tents. FEMA has built 14 houses. 14 houses in Asheville, North Carolina, or wherever it is. There's 500 people on the waiting list. They've built like 14 units. They're not even real houses, but they're units. They're heated units, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this taking so long? Why don't we have the money to just go in there, spend whatever we need to so that our people do not die?
Yeah.
So,
well,
you know,
we're at the end soon. We're at the end soon. So I have a question for you. And if people want to find you, can you share your social media, or where can they find you?
Sure. Well, I'm on Twitter. You know, I'm not like a Twitter maven or anything. So like I don't post every day or anything like that, but I do have an active Twitter. It's Diane _Pagen.
You have Facebook.
I have Facebook. I don't use my Facebook very much, but I also have a website. It's dianepagen.com. And you can reach me at all of those places. If anybody wants to email me any questions, I'd be happy to give. You know, I have an email that I can give also, but you can send me questions over direct message in Twitter, and I'll definitely get back to you. I do want to mention one thing. So you know, as far as universal basic income is concerned, you know, at the moment, and actually since this happened, I haven't been quite as active. I mean, it's just a reality, like I said before, right? When your income is taken from you, you can't do everything that you were doing, you know, and that's part of why they do it, right? To curtail your activity. But there are people doing, you know, there are people that are doing great stuff in UBI, and I would tell people to, you know, first and foremost, I would say people should reach out to Income Movement if you are not already supporting Income Movement. Stacey Rutland is amazing. You know, I just think that, you know, Income Movement are really, you know, just not only are they very effective, but they're also salt of the earth people. I have a lot of good reason to say that, including that, you know, when this first happened to me, Income Movement was very, very supportive of me. And that isn't something that was, you know, that I got a lot of. So, you know, I'm extremely grateful, and they're wonderful people, and they're doing, you know, they're doing good things. And I think that even, you know, if you've been thinking of getting involved with them and you haven't yet, or, you know, just do it, because we need to, you know, we need to carry universal basic income into the next administration. And I actually think that it's going to be a real possibility once all the other stuff is taken care of. There's a long list of things that are really wrong with this country that have to be fixed. So I don't know if that's at the top of the list, but income transfers is definitely, you know, something that people who are pro-freedom, you know, should in theory support. So I would look them up. I think they're on Twitter. They're Income _Movement, but they also have a website. It's easy to find. So go check them out and help them.
Thank you, Diane. And it's been a pleasure to see you. And
Yes.
Last time we met each other about a year ago. Yeah, and you look great. And so thank you for contributing.
You look great too. And I love your outfit. I'm sure other people
Oh,
are noticing it too. You look really
oh, thank you. Thank you.
classic.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, when you come to New York, let's hang out.
Yeah, we can go to Bar Primi.
Okay. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
take a picture of you. I
yeah,
will take a picture of your profile picture. Yeah.
yeah. I need a profile picture. I need to update that.
And thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark Sharkfantech, for your comment. And I'm not bringing it up. And Diane, you can read it. My dear friend made two comments and very lengthy. And thank you. I appreciate your comments. And also,
Okay.
we have more people join us, and not showing up here. And we have a Cha Cooks Chilies. And thank you so much for showing up. Funny name. All right. Okay. So good night, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you are. And yeah, until then, we'll see you. Okay. So you can, I'm going to click end stream to our friends.